Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
We're back in session. We're out of session. Here from the Department of Department of Safety. Thank you, Commissioner, for being with us on a late night session. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill Gibbons, Commissioner, Department of Safety and Homeland Security. I have with me Lieutenant Colonel Derek Stewart.
Do we have questions for the Commissioner?
Thank you,
Representative Camper, you're
recognized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, for being here. I was concerned when we put this amendment on that basically prohibits you from doing some things that I think you felt that the department needs to be involved in. So I just would like to hear your comments on the amendment we just put on.
That is correct, Representative Camper, and I might add that we have flagged this bill as it is amended. And basically, the amendment does two things which disturb us. First of all, I guess from a more philosophical standpoint, we feel that with the amendment, what should be an administrative decision has now become a legislative decision. And by that, I mean the wording of the permit card. because with what this legislation does is change the nature of a handgun carry permit in Tennessee. Under current law, it is a handgun carry permit for both concealed and unconcealed. It is now just if this legislation passes, it is just a permit for a concealed weapon. We think it is very important for the permit carrier, for the public, and for law enforcement to clearly understand the limitations of the handgun carry permit if this legislation is enacted. So through this amendment, basically, the General Assembly would be saying, if this passes, that that administrative decision to change the wording of the permit card is no longer in the hands of the department. Second, and this is more of a policy consideration, we think it is important to change that wording for the reasons that I stated. I can give you an example. And by the way, if you look at the 50 states, they're all a little different in terms of their laws. Representative Ann Huss mentioned Colorado is an example of a state that does not require permits to carry a handgun unconcealed. Well, it's not that simple. Actually, in Colorado, it's kind of a mix. In the urban areas, as I understand it, you do have to have a permit, but in the rural areas, you don't. I point that out because basically every state's a little different. We think it is very important that the permit card accurately reflect the law. I'll give you an example. Right now, as I mentioned, the permit applies to both concealed and unconcealed. We have reciprocity agreements with other states across the nation. I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but just from memory, I think that Indiana is an example of a state that has a current law similar to ours. Well, if you have a permit, you're a Tennessean, and you go to Indiana, that permit no longer applies to carrying your handgun unconcealed. And those law enforcement officers in Indiana need to understand that. So we believe the permit card needs to clearly indicate that it's only for the purpose of carrying a concealed handgun. So for that policy consideration, as well as the philosophical reason I mentioned earlier, as amended, we oppose this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Leader Fitzhugh.
Thank you. And this is just a basic question, not having really anything to do with much to do with this particular bill. But Commissioner, did you say that our permit is for concealed and non-concealed?
That is correct.
Is that the law? I thought you always could carry a weapon non-concealed as long as you didn't have the intent to go armed.
No, well, with the intent it's concealed and unconcealed with the intent to go armed.
Okay, so you can take a weapon to and from your car or something, except if it hasn't been excluded under these laws that we've been passing like crazy in the last few years.
That's essentially correct.
Okay, but particularly this permit does say concealed and non-concealed.
And under current state law, that is correct.
Thank you.
What this bill would do is limit it to only concealed.
Leader McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm going to go back to the fiscal note. It seems like there wasn't a fiscal note, and then there was after it passed in the Senate. Did the bill change that had a fiscal note change on it, or did it just change when it passed the Senate? Well,
I'll try to give a little history here, and Mr. Guys can jump in here too if I state this incorrectly. But there was an amendment before it was voted on in the Senate, stating that the Department of Safety and Homeland Security was not required, did not have to change the wording of the card. Based on that fiscal review, and based on some comments that I believe Colonel Trott had made in hearing to the effect that since that was not required, then that would not be a required expenditure on the part of the department. The fiscal note was taken off. When I discovered that, I made it very clear to Mr. Guys and to fiscal review that while it was not required, as a matter of policy, the department felt it was very, very important for the reasons I just stated that the handgun carry permit card accurately reflect our state law. So while the amendment said it was not required, Frankly, as a matter of good policy, we felt that we needed to make that change. At that point, Fiscal Review issued a new note indicating that $100,000 expenditure for the department.
Maybe I didn't hear it, but did the bill change or did your mind change after it passed the Senate?
Basically, no, our mind did not change at all. We have consistently stated that the permit card needs to accurately reflect state law. That has been our position consistently throughout this. That remains our position.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Commissioner. We're back in session. Any further comments, statements? Representative Alexander, Vice Chair Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Van Huss, I like the King Leonidas quote, and I agree with you. If somebody wants my guns, they can come get them. And you and I both know there's only one way that's going to happen. We agree on that. But what I want you to understand is that regardless of whether this bill has a fiscal note or not, I believe that Tennessee's gun laws are good common sense gun laws. And I believe that they strike that balance that we strive to in individually or in maintaining the individual rights and safety of the citizens. And I see no compelling reason to change them. So I will be voting no on your bill, sir.
Leader McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the sponsor. Now, as amended, the bill will only be open carry for unconcealed, but the permit will still be in effect for concealed. Am I right on that?
That is correct.
Can I ask you why you did it that way rather than just having it all be constitutional? I'm sorry, constitutional carry.
Yes, sir. Well, the purpose for still requiring the permit for concealed is because it takes away the fiscal note. Supposedly, at the beginning, took away the fiscal note off the bill.
So if you had proposed it just a blanket constitutional carry, there would have been a fiscal note attached to that?
Yes, sir. Representative Wendell had a bill that did that, and it had a $4.5 million fiscal note.
Do you remember based on, it's not fair for me to ask you maybe, do you remember what it was based on?
The number of permits would drastically decrease, and the Department of Safety came up and testified in civil justice and said that because mine still requires a permit for concealed, they did the research and said that most of the other states that did that didn't lose any revenue from it.
Oh, okay. So if you got rid of the permits altogether, they would lose the permit revenue.
Yes,
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Further questions, discussion? Seeing none, is there objection to the question? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Representative Alexander. No. Representative Armstrong. Representative Brooks. Representative Camper. Representative Fitzhugh. Representative Hawk. Representative McCormick. Representative McDaniel. Representative Odom. Representative Roach. Representative Sargent. Chairman Harrison.
No.
Ayes 1, 10 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
The bill fails. We're going to be recessed until tomorrow morning. Finance will meet at 8:30. We'll be meeting after that, and I have an announcement I need to make.